the late 1980s, Japan was not just an economic powerhouse, it was a phenomenon, the envy of the world. Its industries were dominant, its technological prowess unparalleled, and its assets so valuable that the ground beneath Tokyo's Imperial Palace was famously said to be worth more than all the land in California. Japan was confidently proclaimed number one, its economic ascent seemingly unstoppable. Yet, within a matter of months, this illusion of invincibility shattered. What followed wasn't a quick correction, but a decades-long saga of economic stagnation, deflation, and policy paralysis, a period ominously known as Japan's lost decade. This isn't merely a story of a bubble bursting. It's a profound cautionary tale of hubris, the devastating human cost when an economic titan falls, and the enduring struggle to escape a self-made trap. Japan's lost decade offers invaluable lessons that continue to inform global economic policy. Its uncontrolled asset bubbles and difficult aftermath foreshadowed the global financial crisis of 2008, with policymakers worldwide studying Japan's struggle to avoid similar pitfalls. The Bank of Japan's pioneering quantitative easing became a crucial blueprint for central banks during and after 2008, despite ongoing debates about its long-term effects. Furthermore, Japan's battle with persistent deflation became a defining case study, demonstrating that falling prices can be a more insidious economic adversary than inflation. The societal impacts, precarious employment, challenged career paths, and demographic shifts from aging populations are now global phenomena, making Japan's experience a sobering reminder of the interconnectedness of economic health, social cohesion, and demography. While Japan continues its efforts to revitalize its economy, its lost decade remains a powerful, enduring cautionary tale for all nations, underscoring the fragility of prosperity and the perils of unchecked speculation and hubris. To truly grasp the monumental scale of Japan's economic fall, we must first appreciate the almost mythical heights from which it descended. Emerging from the utter devastation of World War II, a nation humbled but undeterred, Japan embarked on an economic transformation that astonished the globe. This was not a gradual recovery, it was a relentless, strategic, and ultimately miraculous rise. The foundation of this economic miracle was laid in the immediate post-war years, driven by a unique convergence of factors. American aid and guidance during the occupation provided critical infrastructure and institutional reforms, including land reform and the dissolution of powerful zaibatsu, family conglomerates, which fostered a more competitive environment. Crucially, the Korean War in the early 1950s provided a massive boost as Japan became a key supplier for UN forces, injecting vital capital and stimulating industrial production. What distinguished Japan's growth was its meticulously planned, export-oriented strategy. Government institutions like the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, played a pivotal role, identifying strategic industries for growth, initially steel and shipbuilding, then automobiles and electronics, and providing subsidies, tax incentives, and protective tariffs. This allowed Japanese companies to develop and scale, eventually dominating global markets. Companies such as Toyota pioneered revolutionary manufacturing techniques like the Toyota production system and just-in-time inventory management, which emphasized efficiency, quality, and waste reduction. These innovations became global benchmarks. By the 1970s and 1980s, the Made in Japan label, once associated with cheap imitations, had become a global standard for quality and innovation. Japanese corporations like Sony, Panasonic, Hitachi, and Honda became household names worldwide. Their consumer electronics, automobiles, and machinery didn't just compete with Western manufacturers. They frequently surpassed them in quality, reliability, and technological advancement. In 1980, for instance, Japan produced over 7 million automobiles, surpassing the US to become the world's largest car manufacturer. By the mid-1980s, Japan accounted for approximately 60% of the world's electronics market. The nation's success was a source of immense national pride, fueling a powerful sense of collective destiny. Unemployment remained exceptionally low, hovering around 2%, while living standards rose dramatically. A powerful work ethic, strong corporate loyalty, and a high savings rate further propelled this growth, Scholarly works such as Ezra Vogel's Japan is Number One: Lessons for America, published in 1979, encapsulated the global perception, unequivocally proclaiming Japan's economic supremacy and offering its model as a blueprint for the West. This was the pinnacle of Japan's fortune, a golden age where the nation seemed to walk on water, and any economic challenge appeared surmountable. But beneath this glittering facade, an insidious transformation was underway. As the 1980s progressed, Japan's unprecedented economic power created an abundance of capital, an almost overwhelming flood of money seeking returns. A critical catalyst for the coming bubble was the 1985 Plaza Accord, an agreement among the G5 nations to depreciate the US dollar against the Japanese yen and German mark. While intended to correct trade imbalances, it led to a sharp appreciation of the yen, making Japanese exports more expensive and threatening the nation's export-led growth. In response, the Bank of Japan, fearing a recession, embarked on a policy of aggressive monetary easing. From 1986 to 1987, the official discount rate was cut 5 times, dropping from 5% to an unprecedented 2.5%. Money became incredibly cheap and flowed freely throughout the economy. This liquidity, coupled with the prevailing, almost religious optimism about Japan's future, began to inflate an enormous economic bubble, primarily centered on real estate and stock markets. Consider these staggering figures, almost too surreal to comprehend. Between 1985 and 1989, the average price of commercial land in Japan's 6 largest cities more than doubled, often tripling or quadrupling in prime locations. Residential land prices also surged, making home ownership an increasingly unattainable dream for ordinary citizens. By late 1989, the total value of all real estate in Japan was estimated to be an astounding 4 times that of the entire United States, a country 25 times its size. The infamous statistic that the Imperial Palace grounds, a mere 1.15 square kilometers, about 284 acres, were valued higher than all the land in California, became a powerful, if exaggerated, symbol of this irrational exuberance. The belief that land prices could only go up, that they were a one-way bet, became deeply ingrained, a dangerous myth. The stock market mirrored this dizzying frenzy. The Nikkei 225 index, Japan's benchmark stock average, rocketed from around 12,000 points in 1985 to a historic peak of 38,915.87 points by December 29, 1989. The market capitalization of Japanese stocks exceeded $4 trillion, representing over 40% of the world's total equity market. Companies invested wildly in land and shares, often borrowing heavily to do so, using their increasingly inflated assets as collateral. This practice, known as Zeitek, Kaiteku, or financial engineering, meant that many corporations made more profit speculating on stocks and real estate than on their actual core businesses. Banks, caught in the contagious optimism and under pressure from the government to lend, embraced reckless behavior. They lent aggressively, often with minimal due diligence, confident that ever-rising asset values would cover any potential risk. Loan officers were incentivized by volume, not quality. Individuals, too, borrowed heavily to purchase homes or invest in the stock market, convinced they were riding an unstoppable wave of prosperity that would make them rich overnight. This was the era of hubris, where the illusion of perpetual growth overshadowed any rational assessment of risk. Anecdotes of exorbitant spending became commonplace. $1,000,000 rounds of golf, paintings bought for fantastical sums, luxury items flaunted without restraint. There was an intoxicating belief that Japan had discovered a new, superior form of capitalism, one immune to the boom and bust cycles of the past. The air was thick with champagne and overconfidence, blinding a nation to the precariousness of their paper fortunes. The higher the balloon inflated, the more inevitable and painful its eventual burst would be. As 1989 drew to a close, a growing chorus of voices, both domestic and international, began to sound the alarm about the bubble's unsustainability. Inflationary pressures were undeniably building, driven by soaring asset prices and an overheating economy. The Bank of Japan found itself in an unenviable position. Either let the bubble continue to inflate, risking an even more catastrophic collapse, or act decisively and risk popping it. Ultimately, the central bank decided to act. Under the leadership of Governor Yasushi Mieno, the Bank of Japan, in a series of decisive, some would say draconian moves, began to sharply raise its official discount rate. From a low of 2.5% in May 1989, it climbed steadily, reaching 6% by August 1990. The intention was clear: to cool down the overheated economy, curb speculative lending, and bring asset prices back to reality. But instead of a gentle deflation, it was a pin pricking a massive, overinflated balloon with devastating force. The effects were immediate and brutal. On the very first trading day of 1990, January 4th, the Nikkei 225 index had peaked at its historic high of 39,000 points. But the rising interest rates acted like a vacuum, sucking liquidity out of the markets. Investors, faced with higher borrowing costs and the prospect of slowing growth, began to sell. By the end of 1990, the Nikkei had lost over 40% of its value, a breathtaking fall. This wasn't a mere correction, it was a devastating crash. By August 1992, less than 3 years after its peak, the Nikkei had plummeted to around 15,000 points, a staggering loss of more than 60% from its all-time high. Trillions of yen in shareholder wealth vanished almost overnight. The real estate market, perhaps even more dangerously inflated, soon followed. As interest rates rose, the cost of borrowing for property purchases and highly leveraged speculative investments skyrocketed. Developers and individual speculators who had borrowed heavily, using their inflated land as collateral, found themselves unable to service their rapidly increasing debt. They were forced to sell assets into a rapidly falling market, accelerating the decline. Land prices, particularly in urban centers like Tokyo and Osaka, began a precipitous collapse, often falling by 70% or more over the next decade. Properties that had been purchased for astronomical sums were now worth a mere fraction of their acquisition cost, leaving individuals and corporations facing immense, inescapable debt burdens. This sudden, violent crash sent shockwaves through the entire Japanese financial system. Banks, which had been eager lenders during the boom, now found their balance sheets riddled with massive amounts of non-performing loans that borrowers could no longer repay. The collateral securing these loans, once soaring in value, was now worth next to nothing. The entire system was teetering on the brink of collapse. This crisis of bad debt would become the defining feature of Japan's economy for decades to come, signaling the true beginning of its prolonged ruin. The illusion of invincibility was irrevocably shattered, and the nation faced an economic winter far colder and longer than anyone could have imagined. The immediate, brutal crash of the early 1990s was not the end of Japan's ordeal. It was merely the overture. What followed was an unprecedented period of economic stagnation, famously dubbed the Lost Decade, which stretched into 2, then 3, creating what many economists chillingly referred to as a zombie economy. This was not a quick recovery, but a slow, grinding decline that trapped the nation in a cycle of low growth and pessimism. The primary antagonist in this prolonged decline was deflation. Unlike inflation, where prices rise, deflation means prices steadily fall. For consumers, this created a perverse incentive. Why buy today when it will be cheaper tomorrow? This behavior led to delayed purchases, reduced demand, and further downward pressure on prices. For businesses, falling prices meant declining revenues, reduced profits, and an unwillingness to invest or expand, creating a vicious cycle that proved incredibly difficult to break. Between 1995 and 2013, Japan experienced consistent periods of consumer price deflation, a phenomenon virtually unheard of in major modern economies. This wasn't just a minor dip, it was a deep psychological shift that permeated consumer and business behavior. The financial system remained utterly crippled by a mountain of non-performing loans. Banks, burdened by trillions in bad debt, were reluctant to lend, causing a severe credit crunch. Instead of forcing bankruptcies, many banks practiced evergreening, continuously rolling over loans to insolvent firms. This created zombie companies that stifled new growth and absorbed vital capital, preventing resources from flowing to productive ventures. By 2002, NPLs exceeded 50 trillion yen, an astronomical sum. Faced with this crisis, the Japanese government and the Bank of Japan struggled. They launched numerous fiscal stimulus packages, and the Bank of Japan pioneered quantitative easing, a strategy later adopted globally. Yet, these measures were often criticized as too little, too late, or poorly targeted. Policy paralysis meant decisive action was delayed, allowing deflationary expectations to become deeply entrenched. This prolonged period was a slow, agonizing grind of low growth and stagnant wages, transforming Japan's dynamic economy into a slumbering giant trapped in a unique economic quagmire. Beyond cold statistics, Japan's lost decade inflicted a profound human cost. The prolonged stagnation altered Japanese society, challenging values and fostering a quiet despair. For the generation expecting lifelong employment, the crash was a brutal awakening. The traditional salaryman system eroded as companies restructured, leading to increased job insecurity and unemployment, which peaked around 5.5% in the early 2000s. New social phenomena emerged: freeders and NEETs. Young people struggling for stable work or withdrawing entirely. This instability led to delayed marriages and declining birth rates, fueling disillusionment. The psychological impact was severe, contributing to rising suicide rates and a loss of national confidence. The once can-do spirit was replaced by caution and risk aversion, creating societal paralysis. Exacerbating this, Japan's rapidly aging population faced immense pressure on social welfare systems as birth rates declined. The optimistic Japan as number one vision faded, replaced by a sober nation grappling with the profound social and psychological consequences of its economic past. This is Fortune and Ruin. If you found this autopsy of Japanese ascent and then fall into a zombie economy interesting, subscribe to join us as we unearth more untold stories of the past.